What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are actually going to have more of a chit-chat style conversation about my journey in entrepreneurship and how I went from leading $0 to over $2 billion in investments for communities. Now, the reason I do this is because I believe in transparency. You know, there are so many people on the internet who, and I don't mean this as shady, I don't have an individual in mind when I say it, so please know the only person I'm thinking about is you and wanting to be helpful to you. But there are so many people online who will say they're 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs, etc. because for whatever reason, it's just kind of popular right now. Like, I think, yeah, whatever, it's good for marketing, this, that, the third. But the truth is, people, honestly, like, I wish there was more integrity online. I wish there was more transparency. And the way you do that is just by being transparent yourself. So this is my effort to enter into the conversation and hope that by telling my story and showing you all of my receipts, you can start asking the right questions and knowing how to better look through people's track record to see if you should be listening to their advice or not, to see if what they're saying is maybe with as much substance as you would hope it is. So if you're interested in my journey and then also how to have better discernment when you are just looking at other people's profiles, trying to pinpoint who you want to learn from, then keep on watching. So what's up, you guys? My name is Chloe, and most of you who are on here probably know me from my viral TEDx talk or from my work with vulnerable communities that has gotten me into a position where I've led billions of dollars. And I just want to go ahead and give y'all a spoiler that your girl was not born rich. I was not born rich. I did not scale another, let me teach you how to do social media company. The business that I've done, honestly, is all offline. All of the results that I'm counting is from efforts that I've had the deep honor and responsibility to lead offline before I ever started teaching here. So I'm going to walk you through my story, how I got there, give you the real receipts and breakdown right now. And then at the end of the video, of course, we're going to have some discussion around what does any of this mean anyways. So make sure you watch all the way through because each part builds on one another. So my story is that, while I did not grow up with financial wealth, you guys, I could not have hit the family lottery any better. Like, my family, you guys, they're my everything. And my parents, my grandparents gave everything so that I could be, right? Like, I stand on their shoulders. They walked so I could run. So the generational love, the focus on being a good person, the focus on being plugged into community, of being generous, of remembering that you're no better or no less than anybody else, those are gifts. Those are a form of wealth that I am so grateful to have been blessed with. And in terms of my lineage, y'all, my grandfather was born into sharecropping in Memphis, Tennessee. My dad was born during segregation in Memphis, Tennessee. And my mom is a first-gen immigrant from the Caribbean to the US because she wanted school opportunities and also to deepen her faith, right? So when I say we're first-gen, we really are as first-gen as they come. And so there's a lot of cultural wealth in that, and it did not come with financial wealth for us. And so when I graduated college, which again, I did because they poured everything into my siblings and I, when I graduated college, I knew I wanted to have a job where all of the values I was raised with were prominent and I could lead in a way that would have those values front and center. And I had seen just how much of a difference wealth makes in supporting your family and making sure you guys are safe, in lowering your stress levels and having better health outcomes, right? Like, when you have less stress, you're healthier, and finances are almost one of the, if not the number one contributor to people's stressors. So I knew I wanted to make a real impact in my communities and help families because I love families, right? I love people. And I also knew your girl wanted to make money. I really believed that the next step in my family's arc was to have that kind of wealth, to be generous, right? To pour back into our communities, to make sure that we are safe for generations, to make sure that those who come after me have any and every opportunity that they want to express themselves and to give to others. So that's where I set out to figure out, how can I do both? And funny enough, the most surprising lesson I learned in how to build wealth and also make change was that so much of it had to do with me. It had to do with the quality of my health, the quality of my life, the quality of how I even viewed myself. It started with my relationship to me, which is what brought your girl to do a TED Talk in the first place. But I realized that until I was healed and healthy, I had limitations on me that were purely self-imposed. Now, granted, some of the traumas I've experienced and the reasons I had anxiety and depression were systemic. However, the work I needed to do in order to heal those things and free up my bandwidth and enjoy myself more, change my self-image, were things that I could do. So the quality of my life deeply dictated the quality of my work. And so, when I graduated, I set out on this path, but I was deeply burnt out. I had anxiety disorder. I had major depressive disorder. I had what was then called a trauma-related disorder. Now we call it PTSD. I had all of these things, right? And they're from things that we can talk about in another video, because I think it requires more space for me to talk to you guys about it in an honest and full way. But just know that I was really struggling. And we didn't have like a whole lot of financial cushion. I was personally struggling. I had this big ambition that I had on my heart. And I really was at a crossroads of, how do I do any of this? And the truth is, y'all, when I graduated, I slept for almost 8 months. That's what your girl did. I slept. I was juggling 5 different part-time jobs, still broke. And I was doing whatever I could just to contribute. In the last video, I was sharing with you guys, before you start a business, you need to assess your finances and use a financial cushion if you have one. Going back home to my parents and just sleeping and them giving me the space to just be, it's one of the greatest gifts. I mean, they've given me literally everything, but of course they gave me that space, and it really changed everything. So taking that space was super critical, because it gave me enough space to not just jump at any job, right? Because you guys, I got job offers after graduation, but so many of them, they just reeked of burnout. And I was already burnt out. I was like, I can't handle this, right? What it's going to require of me, I thought would break me, and it probably would have. So there were teaching jobs, there were nonprofit jobs, there were all these things that had the impact side, but were requiring me to live in scarcity. Y'all, one of the jobs that I was being considered for literally paid so little that I would have to be on food stamps to take the job. And I was just like, how do you profess to do good, but require your people to be on food stamps to make your company run? That math don't math at all. We won't get into that yet. We can in another video if y'all want. Just let me know in the comments. But the math was not mathing for me. And my parents knew my heart was not in it, and they were so kind to help steer me away from it. So anyways, I had the safety to explore. And maybe around December, after I graduated in May, I saw a job opportunity where everything just clicked, right? And this was a job where I was making $38,000, which is more money than I had ever made in my life. Obviously, it was, to me, a whole lot of money at the time. And I was hired as a design researcher. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, my degree is in anthropology and sociology. So I was hired to be one of the anthropologists on staff. And I was the most junior paid. I did not have a master's or a PhD, where almost everybody else in the organization did, right? So when I stepped into the role, I wasn't thinking I need to prove myself. I was just so excited to be in the room. I was so excited to be around these people who had such awesome degrees. We were doing things to help the community. It was also a for-profit entity, so it was like a B Corp, which was cool to me. I was like, how could you be for-profit and for the community? This feels like my dream. And seeing the intersection of those changed it for me, right? I saw it was possible. Now, giving y'all the tea, the organization itself didn't live up to its values, right? And I don't mean this to shade the organization because I know it was well intentioned. But there were many times where I was the only Black person on the team. There were many times where I'd have to say, hey, we're in Memphis. That's not going to work. Or the people that we're designing for aren't at these tables. So we got to bring them in, right? And I say that to just kind of give you little inklings of how I started finding my voice. It was through my lived experience that I was able to express in a container that was innovative, that was well-intentioned, that gave me the space and the financial stability to say, let me apply myself and try to really be a high performer. That's what I was looking to do. I was looking to learn and contribute as much as I could because I knew this was an awesome opportunity. It was. And unintentionally, that started me on the path to leading over $2 billion within less than 4 years? Within less than 4 years after taking that $38K a year job, right? And every year after that, every transition I had after that, my salary doubled, right? So we get to a point where your girl has been I have launched an organization. I have gotten it funded at $32 million. Before this, because I told you I'd give you receipts. Before that, I was working on a very small team where we built a strategy for an early education nonprofit that had a run rate of $250 million over 5 years. We got it formed, and part of the strategy was a childcare focused strategy, which now is Next Memphis. It's an awesome organization. Please check it out. But that's the one that I was taking when I was a researcher all the way through several different organizations. That's a project I was carrying for about 4 or 5 years. That project is one that I built. The next one that I had built, that was $32 million. And I got that funded. This one was different though, because I stepped in to lead it. So I stepped in as the only staff member, you name it, being within a nonprofit, which was awesome, and quickly grew it from just me to over 100 staff members serving 40 different schools, again, funded at $32 million, making serious systemic waves in childcare in Memphis. And because of the work I had done, not only was I ready for this, but it was one of my biggest personal development seasons to date. And we'll get to this in the next part of the video, but I just want to say to you that this journey was not easy. However, because of the things I learned and the work I did, which again we'll get to in the next part, I was noticed and recognized in my community. Even beyond that, I was noticed and recognized by the governor's office in Tennessee, and they appointed me to a task force where this task force was was truly legislatively created and assigned to redesign the system of childcare in Tennessee. So in that task force, my job was to work on the strategic plan, to offer thought leadership, but also strategic leadership to help get us from how do we do any of this to a cohesive plan to take to the legislature. So, and it's administratively focused. For those of y'all who care about policy, it was an administrative plan that had to go through the legislature for their kind of approval and then support for the administration to implement it. So it really was working not only with a multi-billion-dollar budget, but you're thinking about two different parts of government making this happen, right? So the legislative branch and also the administrative side of we need this to happen and we're going to make it happen. So anyways, that's the overview of the kind of work that I was doing, where it was looking at a multi-billion-dollar strategic plan, $32 million funded organization, $250 million 5-year strategy. And this does not include other ways that I have helped generate resources for other people or help my client. It doesn't include any of the impact financially that my clients have made. And I haven't included this. I've told y'all why over on Instagram. Follow me there if you would really like to know more about it. But the reason I didn't include it was because it's too hard to measure. Right? So the ones that I've included in my impact numbers, you can go exactly back to the funding source, right? So I did it like that to keep the numbers clean and so that I could explain it to you on rinse and repeat in a way that's easy. So I'm going to take it back to the intro here and let you know that this is how transparent people need to be with you about their numbers, right? I'm not saying that you should request an itemized breakdown from a coach, right? But what I am saying is people need to be able to articulate with clarity why they say that number. Can they break it down for you? Can they say, like, here's why I say I got these results, here's where they come from, this, that, the third? Because there's way too many people who believe this is like just a fun marketing tagline that people aren't going to double check. And honestly, it's shady. It's shady. It's giving scam. It's giving inappropriate. And we're just like, we're deading this. I can't deal with it, right? Because it's dishonest to you. And for people, I think back to myself in 2017 when I took my first business development course. The person I took it from thankfully had amazing results, right? But I could only imagine if I had saved up all that money, invested in a course, and then the person who I was learning from didn't have real results or had great results but wasn't a good teacher, and I wasted my money, y'all, it would have been devastating for me. So that's the reason that I wanted to show you my results, right? Now, from there, I'd love to give just kind of an overview of some of the things that I learned along the way. And because I don't want this video to be 30 minutes long, I've condensed this into my book. I wrote a book that's literally just for you, taking what I learned along my journey from $0 to $2 billion and transformed it into 10 principles for you to heal yourself, build generational wealth, and help other people in your community. And I've made it totally free. So while copies last, please go to the link in the description box and get yours now. And the short of it, the part that I wanted to speak about with you right now is that along the way, I learned that being a leader is difficult. It's not just the emotional commitment. There's so much work you have to do as a person in order to have the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical bandwidth to support your team members. And for anybody who wants to lead a business, you're going to need team members, period, right? So I realized that some of the shortcomings I had, like for example, as much as I'm great with in-person communication, whenever I would start to feel stressed or insecure or my imposter syndrome would flare up, I would become avoidant about emails. That doesn't work when you have an organization of 100 people, right? That's supposed to double in the next year. It does not work. So I had to do the work to heal the reason I felt avoidant or heal the times that I felt unworthy because it deeply mattered to my team. And on the flip side, I had to teach my team the skills of well-being so that whatever they have to deal with in order to show up and perform at their highest, they have the tools to do so. To create a business that lasts, to create teams that perform at their peak, right? At top performance, you have to be well and you have to teach others and give them the space to be well too. So y'all, business is not just a financial journey, it's deeply personal. There's a lot of self-development in it, but it's also why I say if you have a strong foundation and the right strategies to build with, it's one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do because it stretches you. It stretches you. It also gives you the things that you've been dreaming of. So with that, I am going to leave you a playlist of other videos I have made just for you, just to pour into you, just to help nourish you, and to encourage you to take the leap of faith well prepared, right? We want you to be well prepared, not just out here flapping in the breeze. So check out these videos. And if you ever have questions, leave them in the comments below because you never know. Your question might become one of our next YouTube videos. Ciao, my loves, and I will see you in the next video.